Below are three of the most realistic scenarios analysts say could happen next in the current Iran war. Each one has very different consequences for the Middle East, global markets, and security. One short war, ceasefire, and negotiations. Probability. Moderate timeline, weeks. In this scenario, the intense early strikes by the US and Israel severely weaken Iran's military infrastructure and leadership. Tehran eventually agrees to negotiations or a ceasefire after facing mounting economic pressure and internal instability. What would likely happen? Airstrikes slow down after key military targets are destroyed. Iran stops large missile attacks in exchange for security guarantees. Talks begin over Iran's nuclear program and sanctions relief. Oil shipping resumes through the Strait of Hormuz, stabilizing markets. Impact oil prices fall back toward pre-war levels. Global markets rebound. The conflict becomes a diplomatic crisis rather than a military one. Why analysts think this is possible? Some economists expect a short conflict because prolonged disruption to oil markets would damage every major economy, giving all sides incentives to de-escalate. Two regional war across the Middle East probability. Moderate to high timeline. Months. This scenario is the one military planners worry about most right now. Iran escalates by using its network of regional allies and militias to attack US bases, Gulf infrastructure, and Israeli cities. The conflict spreads across multiple countries. Possible escalation points. Hezbollah opens a major front from Lebanon. Iranian missiles strike US bases. In the Gulf, attacks on Saudi or Emirati oil facilities. Continued disruption of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Impact oil supply drops dramatically. 20% of global supply moves through Hormuz. Prices could exceed $150, $200 per barrel. Global inflation and recession risks increase. Wall Street analysts warn a prolonged conflict and shipping shutdown could create a major global energy crisis. 3. Iranian regime collapse. Probability. Low, moderate, but highly consequential timeline. Weeks to months. Some analysts say the war could trigger internal political collapse in Iran. Factors pushing toward this scenario: severe economic damage, loss of leadership after recent strikes, widespread protests inside Iran. If the government falls, a new political system could emerge. What could follow? Possible outcomes include a democratic reform movement, a military junta, fragmentation into competing factions. The risk history shows regime collapse can cause instability. Analysts warn Iran could face civil conflict similar to Syria or Iraq after regime change. A fourth worst-case scenario analysts mention this is low probability but catastrophic. Iran attempts a nuclear breakout or nuclear threat if it feels existentially threatened. This would trigger massive international military intervention. Bottom line, right now analysts believe the most likely paths are short conflict with negotiations or a prolonged regional war affecting oil and the global economy. The regime collapse scenario would dramatically reshape the Middle East if it happened.